Hey guys, it's Kim.
And it's Corey from the Relentless Real Estate Podcast.
You said it. Good job.
I did. You know how much of a tongue twister that is?
Say that 4 times.
Yeah.
So today we are talking about a topic that is pretty touchy around Windsor. And we've had a lot of talk around it. We just want to kind of put it out there. We have different opinions. Even you and I are kind of having little battles in certain areas.
Yeah, and it's a common opinion out there right now. And it's everyone has their own reasoning as to how we got here, why we're here.
And what are we talking about?
The rental crisis.
Okay.
So why is sorry, I guess you should have led with that. But right now, there are so many people that are struggling to afford to put a roof over their head. So I can't imagine being in this situation right now where you have to decide, do I have the money to pay my rent to have a roof over my head to avoid these frigid cold temperatures, or do I have enough money to pay for groceries? This is something you shouldn't have to pick and choose.
Right.
And it's getting out of control. So so today we thought maybe we talk about why we're how we got
here. Right.
Maybe some potential solutions out of it. And everyone has differing opinions on it. So we thought we'd get into our own opinions on it.
Yes. I mean, a lot of this comes down to ethics in a lot of, so we were having a little debate before we started this, and I was giving you an example of, okay, so let's say you owned a home, Corey, and you were an investor and you owned a rental home, and you had a choice. If you knew you could charge $2,400 for this home, and you could get away with it, and someone would pay it, would you actually do that? So let's say it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, renovated place. If you found someone to pay that much money.
To pay that much money, and then at that point I'm just making ridiculous profits? No. And I'm going to stand, it sounds like I'm grandstanding here, but it's just not right. And this is one of the reasons, and I think this is one of the biggest problems. So anytime you go, and you can blame the algorithm for this, but if you look at something online and it talks about, let's say, the BRRR method.
Right. That's what it is.
It really is. And now everyone thinks that they're an investor. And yeah, it's great you want to go in and get an additional income at that point. But when it comes at the expense of your own fellow citizens not being able to have a roof over their head, that's where I have issue with it. It's why I don't have a rental property. I don't think it's a bad thing to have a rental property. I think when you start having 10, 20, 30 people, and you're gouging people, that's when we need to pump the brakes. Profit is not everything.
So I mean, I'm putting myself in the landlord's shoes a little bit here. And I'm not saying that charging that much rent is okay. I'm against charging a ton of rent based on 2-bedroom, 1-bath, $2,400. No. But if a lot of landlords, a lot of investors bought houses in the past few years, and they went on a variable rate, interest rate. So what's happening is their interest rates are, double what they were when they started. So of course, they're going to have to start increasing the rents. So I mean, there's that.
Well, when we look at it that way, so they're increasing the rents, and yes, they did a variable mortgage. But why does everyone have to suffer because of that decision? It's at the end of the day, you're not going to make as much profits. So let's burn the rest of the population.
I understand. It's for the whole, right? Okay,
it's the greater
I want to
good,
bring up a few situations. So during this insanity that we had over the last few years with real estate and home purchasing, there was so many different situations that we were in multiple offer situations, and the buyer's agents would write a nice letter. First time home buyers, they've tried 20 times, they've lost out, and they have a dog named Jack, and just playing on your emotions, right? But they really, really needed to get a home, right? And so I would present these offers to the seller. And this wonderful new family, wants this place, and this offers $10,000 less than an investor from Toronto who's going to rent the house out and potentially, give your neighbors, potentially, who knows who's going to be moving in there,
Yeah.
right? Students or, which students aren't bad, but I mean, it's not a family who might take care of the house a little bit better than renters, right?
Yeah, maybe.
So, maybe. But the seller in 99, I think there might have been one situation where they did, accept the lower offer, the $10,000 less for an actual family versus a higher offer for an investor to buy it. I mean, money, it's, at the end of the day, it's all about money.
It is. And
it's very difficult. It's very difficult to convince someone based on ethics. I mean, they didn't break the law by accepting the higher offer.
But that's where I think
ethically,
things are changing.
they should have given the family the chance, right?
I think there's a generational shift right now, and I don't think it's the same mentality that the Gen Zs are taking. I think the Gen Zs are going to be more likely to be the ones that will take that 10,000 less because they're the ones that they're in that situation where they're getting burned. Like, we have all these things that we like to basically gauge and put our opinion on, but we've never experienced it ourselves. Mm-hmm. So I can sit here and talk about how these kids, they just need to give up Starbucks and they'll be able to afford a home. But I didn't have to experience that. I was able to buy a house when it was actually affordable. This is a struggle that's not known to me. Mm-hmm. But I have family members, like my little sister I've mentioned many times before. She doesn't. There's no way that a person on a single salary right now, unless you're making over $100,000 a year, will be able to afford a house. Yeah. So now you're stuck renting in perpetuity, and with rents that are just they're insane right now.
Right.
So how do we fix that? I think that we need to reel in on investing, and you know what? It's okay to invest. It's great to invest, but when we're in times of crisis like we are now, we have to come together and just put everything on pause. Profits just don't have to be, there is only so much profit you can make. Mm-hmm. Eventually it's going to stop, and you might have to put a pause on it. And I think we're at the point now where we need to put a pause on it. So
it's gonna be a hard case.
It is 100%, because I know
look at the grocery store. Like you were just talking about Amazon, and you're talking about, was it Weston?
Well, it's not, because it's not inflation, it's greedflation is what's happening. Mm-hmm. Like we're not. It's Amazon laying off 18,000 people. Are you serious? Like how many billions and billions of dollars are you raking in just because your profits aren't as high? You're going to lay off 18,000 people and put them out of a job.
Right.
Take less profits. Mm-hmm. You know what? You don't have to appease the shareholders every single time. So, I think we've become victim and almost held hostage by Wall Street.
And what about Weston? We were talking about inflation and food prices.
Same thing. Well, you look at them, like if they had some of the highest profits they've ever had last quarter, and we were just talking about the whole no-name price freeze that they did. Mm-hmm. That lasted 3 months? Like
hopefully everybody's stocked up.
Oh, and it's just the narrative that's pushed all the time is just, it's the supply chains, and it's costing us more. It's no, your profits aren't as high, but in their case they are. They're actually even better.
Crazy, yeah.
We need to start holding these companies accountable, and this is what's happening in the real estate industry too. It's just everything's getting bought up by smaller and smaller few, and it's the rest of us are getting burned. Mm-hmm. And I say the rest of us, I'm one of the lucky ones that does have a home, so I lucked out. Mm-hmm. I'm in a good position, but there are millions of people that aren't in that situation that didn't have that opportunity that I had.
100%.
So what do we do? Like, how do we fix it? What's the cause of this? Like, we talked about, like, there is rent control. So, like, you've got
there's rent control, but if I have a vacant home right now, mm-hmm. I can charge whatever I want. There's no control to that.
And that's the issue. If there is a loophole in the system, mm-hmm. people will find that loophole and they will exploit it.
Right.
And that's the loophole. Yes, if you have a rental property now, yes, you're limited on what you can increase the rent.
Right.
Nothing stopping you from selling that, buying a vacant property, and setting whatever rents you want at that point. Mm-hmm. So we need some legislation in place to tackle that, to stop that from happening. How we do that?
That might be pretty difficult. Like, this is an updated 2-bedroom, 1 bath. This is the rent max that you can charge on this property.
But that's
How
where...
can you determine that?
That's where, and I won't get into it too much because we've already kind of talked about this a bunch, is the non-market housing.
Right.
You need a benchmark for these places to compete with. So when you have it completely privatized, run that way, there's no system. There's no one that's holding them accountable. When you look at the non-market system, all of these private investors have to compete with the non-market housing. If they don't, they're not going to rent their properties. So it gives you that benchmark. We don't have that benchmark.
Right.
So that's something that I really think we're not paying attention to, and we need to start focusing on that.
So the nonprofit, the charity organizations would have to start buying up buildings.
Or even the government at that point. Like I'm looking at some of these vacant properties. Like what was the one off of Erie Street, that old school that just closed down?
Oh, okay.
Like we need to convert some of these spaces into city-owned, provincial-owned, federally owned pieces of property and start building a non-market community.
Right.
But we talked about this before, and the stigma. People hear social housing or community housing, and they get a little bit freaked out.
But if you look at the other areas that it's actually not, there's no stigma on those properties like in Europe.
Yeah, in Vienna, Austria. Yeah, 100%. 60% of their market is on. They're part of the decision-making process.
Right. So if you have that many buildings, the stigma is obviously going to go away at some point.
Well, yeah,
when you have 60% of your buildings.
But it's not just that. You have to develop it in a way. So when they develop these communities in Vienna, the community's involved. They get a say in it. It's not we're just going to build these hideous, ugly box structures with basic. Like it's you nice, get a say in it. It's nice. Right. It's got the neighborhood is constructed with parks, with ponds, with stores, with shops. So with services. You can't just flop a big ugly building with no social services around it and expect it to work. It's just a terrible model, and we haven't learned from our mistakes. We keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, and we're expecting that something's going to change, and it's not.
Right.
We need to look to other countries that are doing things that are working. We need to start trying new things. We're afraid of change.
100%.
Like and no change is going to happen unless we take the risk.
That's right.
So it's I'm passionate about this, and I know we've got different opinions on it, but I've had this discussion with people before, and this is a lot of people are going to disagree with this 100%. But I've always toyed with the concept of you're limited as an individual to one investment property and one vacation property and your personal residence. So I'm not cutting out all investing altogether. I'm not cutting out the ability to have a vacation home. You have an income generating property, potentially two with a vacation home, plus your own home. What do we need more than that for? What do you think? Like, do you think people should be able to have...
I think limiting anyone is going to be, obviously, it's never going to happen.
It won't, but that's...
But like you said, 80% of the population probably controls 20% of the
capital. Like when you go like the stock market, yeah,
exactly.
We talked about it's FOMO. Everyone's afraid of missing out on the next big Apple or Tesla or Google, but I think we've gone too far with it. We've gotten too greedy.
But how do you make someone ungreedy? That's the thing. People, the more money you have, the more money you want, the more money, you know what I mean? It's how can you guilt these people out of what they're doing? You can't.
Well, you're not going to be able to stop what's already happened.
Right.
But I think we can stop prevent it from continuing to happen. So I think that could be a step. It's like the student wage thing that they did in the States, where they wiped out some of the student debt. Yeah, it sucks for the people that did have to pay it and did pay it off because they didn't get that payout. But at the same time, the ones before them have less of an opportunity than they did.
Right.
And it's like saying, because I suffered, you should suffer too, which is such a sadistic way of thinking. And we need to get rid of that mentality. So I don't know if it's going to happen. I this is definitely something that people are going to have strong opinions on.
They're going to have strong opinions, but I really don't think And back to the kind of scenario where if you could charge this amount of money for your rental property and get away with it, would you? I would say 90% of people would say yes. Yeah, why not? And it goes towards anything. Like, so if I could go ahead and charge you 8% commission on to sell your home, would I? No. But I see so many different training sessions and everything else. Don't cut your commission and try to go for even more commission. You know what? Everyone in town's charging 5 or 6%. You should do 7%, and add like one extra thing, charge more money, make it seem even better. And it's like, really? I can't do that ethically. But I would say if I asked a lot of other people, they'd say, yeah, why not? If someone's willing to pay it, why not?
So
that's
the greed mentality, right?
Exactly.
Like that our
society's greedy, period.
100%, but that's where we go back to it before. I think we're seeing a generational shift on this. I don't think it's the same. I feel like that younger generation they've been screwed over.
Yeah.
Like I will admit it, like I was on the cusp. I got lucky.
Yeah.
But like you have an entire generation coming up that will not have the same opportunities. When has this happened that the younger generation does not have the same opportunities as their parents? We're going backwards. Mm-hmm. We need to change this. We need to do something about this. And we need to put our greed aside. Mm-hmm. It will happen. It might not happen this year, but I guarantee in the next decade you're going to see some changes.
Well, maybe we should get some opinions. Any younger people listening, if you were in this scenario where you could charge a certain amount for your rental property, you're going to make an extra $500 a month on this, mm-hmm. or you could charge a more reasonable rate and make less money. Would you do it just to help the overall cause?
So, but what do we need in life? Like, we need security, and we've talked about this before. Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
Security is the foundation, right? Like shelter, mm-hmm. Basic foods.
Yeah.
Like, they did a study in the States, and it was the amount that you need to live comfortably, where everything's just kind of, you're worrisome. Like, people start having more children, they start mm-hmm. enjoying life, and it was $80,000.
Okay.
So with the dollar exchange, say maybe about $100,000
mm-hmm.
here. So if we could get everyone to make that kind of money
mm-hmm.
a year, what do we need more for?
Because people want the boat. They want the Mercedes.
You can still
they want
do
the
that
vacation home with $100,000 a year. No, you can't.
No, well, maybe not the boat and the Mercedes.
And the vacation home, and trips to Disney every year.
The vacation home is
and
on $100,000 a year. Not now with the price of homes now.
Yeah.
But if you have a dual income with the $100,000 now, you can afford
if you're each making $100,000, yes.
Yeah, but at that
maybe.
point,
yeah,
it's just there needs to be. It's a trickle down effect. Mm-hmm. Like, we talk about homelessness and we talk about like drug issues and,
mm-hmm.
and we talk about, like, it's not going to be solved unless we fix the foundation of the issues.
But how many people actually care?
I don't think enough people do.
I don't think a lot of people do.
I think that's changing, though.
Okay.
I'm an optimist when it comes to that, because I do think it's changing. Like talking to younger people, I feel like this is something that's going to happen,
mm-hmm.
and I consider me an optimist in that point, because
okay.
I'm a pessimist with a lot of this, with the way the housing is right now. But I do have some hope. I do think there's going to be some changes. I think we're.
Well, let's get some feedback on this. Let's put out a survey or something.
Yeah,
Find
honestly,
out what people are thinking.
If you think I'm out to lunch, tell me I'm out to lunch. I get it. There's so many people that, like, I've had this conversation with, and they're like, no, like, you're an idiot. Like, this is never gonna, like. Mm-hmm. But you know, it's an opinion that I hold yeah. to me. Not everyone's going to agree with it, and that's okay.
Yep.
But I think we need to talk about this. We 100%. Need to discuss it.
Yep.
So
awesome.
Yeah. So
okay, so that was it for today. Hopefully, you can give us some feedback, and we would love to hear from you guys. So, till next time, see ya.
Thank you.